Well, welcome to part 10, YouTube. This is the 1951 Ford F1 rebuild series. Trying to do my best to improve my video quality. Quality may not be the right word, stability maybe. Got a new tripod today in hopes that we can make this work just a few times, quite a few times. I'm sure I'll need to take this off the tripod. And when I do, it'll be more challenging, but as much as possible we'll work off the tripod. You can see I've basically taken the bed of this truck and turned it into a work table, fab table for now. So what we've got is there's a couple things I want to clarify. First, in the last video I made a comment at one point about the moving the shift point or the shifter location on the Tremec T56. That can be done on certain Tremec T56 transmissions. This is not one of those. So that forward cover covers the area where your I think it's park indication, reverse indication switches are. There is not a receiver for the shift knob, so this one's going to stay toward the rear. It's not a problem. I'll show you in the cab later. It's not a problem for it to stay where it is, but just wanted to clarify, not all Tremecs have multiple shift locations, but some of them do. This one happens not to. Then transmission crossmember. I think I've decided that I was just making it too difficult before. What we're going to go with is, this is fabbed basically a 2x2, 2x2 1/4, something like that, piece of channel out of 3/16 plate. It's 2x2 and 3/16 because of the way I laid it out. So this piece of welded channel, welded the outside. I actually beveled it. I beveled it, welded it, and ground it off smooth. So while it's smooth here, there's still a lot of penetration metal there that's in the groove. And then on the inside, stitch welded it along here. And so we've got plenty of meat on the bone to hold up this transmission. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a simple straight transmission crossmember, but it's just going to hang slightly below the frame rail. Still going to be higher than our lower points, so it's not going to be a clearance issue. It will give us clearance room for our exhaust pipes to come above it, but below the floorboard. And we're just going to basically hang it. We're going to build. Needs to be trimmed off here. You can probably see. We're trimming it to width for the frame now. This is actually frame width. We need to trim another half off because we're going to have 1/4-inch plates on both ends. That's going to act as the hangers to hang it on the frame. And we're going to hang it on the lower lip of the frame. But we're also going to have a piece coming up so we can bolt through the side of the frame and through the lower lip of the frame, so the weight's carried on the frame well. And then there'll also be a piece of 1/4-inch plate here in the center area where the actual mount, the actual transmission mount, will bolt on. We'll see how that more later. So this is the start to our transmission crossmember. We're going to be making modifications on the fly, but for now we'll trim this thing to length. We're going to cut the end plates that are going to carry it. And well, actually probably the next thing we're going to do, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the 1/4-inch plate that's going to weld under here and carry our transmission mount here. That way we can actually bolt it under the truck and then look at heights, look at level, make sure it's as it needs to be, and then we'll fab up the end pieces to actually hang it on the frame. Simple as easy. I don't need to make this thing hard. I was trying real hard to make it hard. No sense in it. So let's go see if we can fab this thing up. I just want to show you this. I have a Hobart Air Force 250 CI plasma cutter. I bought this plasma cutter for my daughter's last welding project for the fair. And I'll tell you, I've been ridiculously impressed. I'm really glad I bought it. A couple of limits when I was looking for a plasma cutter is right now in my garage, fixing to resolve that. Well, right now in my garage I have one 220, 240 volt outlet, and that's for the dryer. And my air compressors 240, a welder's 240, and if I bought a 240 volt plasma cutter and then had to run my compressor for air source at the same time, well, I just don't have enough outlets for it. So I bought this little Hobart. Love this little Hobart. It runs on 110, has its own internal air generation, and so it's not monstrous. It's not going to cut through ridiculously thick steel. It will sever 1/4 inch plate. I think it does a little better than severing 1/4 inch plate, but I'll show you how effective it is here. It's not real fast, but it's clean. So I'm happy with it. It's not the cleanest cut in town, but then again it meets my need of 110 volt and no external air source requirement, and it's more than adequate for what I'm doing. Put a little grind on this thing, it'll be the length, and then we can start fabbing up the end bracing. Alright, back to this Crossmember. We've got basically a 1/4 inch plate welded onto the bottom of the Crossmember. Now, the 1/4 inch plate is off center line quite intentionally. Need to check that. Okay, so we got the plate cut. It's 5 inches by 6 inches. Got it tacked on 6 inches this way, 5 inches this way. It's actually a little less than 6. It's just how the material was laid. So I didn't worry about it. It's close enough. What we've got to do now is we have to attach this mount. This is the transmission mount, and it needs to go like so. One of the things that we're also going to do right now, this plate's just tacked on there. We're going to tack everything and fit it, make sure we're good with it. We'll clean it all up and everything later, but so right now we just want to mount this onto here. We're also going to guss it. We're going to guss it from here up, just so that, you know, this plate kind of hanging out there is a bit pendulous. So we'll gusset it up so that it's well secured to here and the plate's not going to want to move away. First thing we're going to do, we're going to drill it here, and then we're going to fit it up to the transmission and get a look at it once it's up under the transmission. And if we're happy with everything, then we can measure off for our hangers that are going to go on the ends here. And when we take it out, we finish up hopefully with the hangers and get this thing done, finish welding it, clean it all up, make it look presentable. Here we go. Alright, so we left off, we were going to drill some holes in this plate. Let me show you here. Basically, these two holes, these two holes in the plate right there. And then we put it under, we fit it, looked good. We tacked it up, or we welded up in front of this plate. And then we took the dimensions we needed to build our carrier brackets, and so now you can see on the ends the carrier bracket fully welded out, ready to go on. And so basically this is going to sit on the bottom flange of the frame, and we're going to put a couple of bolts through here and through the bottom of the frame, and to secure it. The weight will be borne this way, so the bolts won't be holding it up. Bolts will just be holding it in place. So we're just going to use 2 3/8 bolts through there, something like that, and just to keep it fixed in place. At this point, I'm not going to gusset this center. I want to put it in and look at it, and then decide if I think we need to gusset it. It's a 1/4 inch plate. It doesn't stick out that far. Yeah, I don't think we really need to gusset it, but I'll put it in there and we'll try to evaluate it. I'll try to get you a shot of it under the car, and maybe we can get enough light and enough camera stability to do it. So let's see what happens. All right, we're under the truck, as you can probably tell. Here's the bell housing on the transmission, and here's the body of the transmission. You can see it in the transmission mount. Very awkward under here, but let's see what I'm looking at. There we go. So this is the transmission cross member. Goes across. There are the 2 bolts for the transmission mount, and you may or may not be able to see the other side over there. And basically it goes under the brake master cylinder over there. There we go. I think you can see it. And they're hanging off of the edge of the frame. Now I've got full weight on them now. I'm good with the heights, where the heights of the transmission off the ground relative to the rear suspension. Happy with that. I did have to actually take the mount off the transmission, slide it in here, put these bolts on, and slide it under, and then re-secure it to the transmission. But that'll work. We're good with that. So happy. I think we're good on the cross member. One thing I'll need to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to find a point of reference on the frame, maybe a hole where a rivet was or something that I can use and measure back to the mount position, and then see, basically even them between the sides, make sure it's not cocked side to side. And then once we do that, we'll drill 2 holes from the bottom through the flange, through the hanger plate, and we'll bolt it in. And I don't think it's going anywhere. A lot simpler than the initial design I had, but then again, simple is good. If you look at clearance wise, when you call it running height clearance, but the bottom of the transmission is actually lower than the mount, so you know, we're just as likely to drag, or even the power brake booster over there. They're lower than the transmission mount, so I'm okay with that. Anyway, so let's move on to the next thing. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fire this baby. Been waiting, I'm ready to go. It's not ready, but I'm ready. We've got our radiator installed, temporarily put in the radiator core support across the front of the frame, and happy with that. I also installed a little throwdown oil pressure gauge here, just to so when we start it, we can, well, before we start it, we're going to make sure we run the oil pressure up, unhook the coil wire, and turn it over and get the oil pressure up, hopefully. And we've installed the MSD6AL ignition box here on the firewall. We've also installed the Atomic EFI power supply there. I'll show you. There's a whole series on the motor under different playlists, but basically I made the choice at that time, and still back it up, that choice up today, to install a throttle body electronic fuel injection system. It makes them so much more reliable, and with today's fuel and the challenges of ethanol being hydrophobic and just loves to suck water in, the water gets in the bowls. It depends on how much you're going to run your vehicle. If you run your vehicle quite a bit, you turn over your gas tank, less of an issue on a carbureted motor. But this one's going to be somewhere in between that and a trailer queen. She's going to go, but she's not necessarily going to get a ton of miles. And so I just didn't want to have endless carburetor issues. I don't want to go to get in there and have to worry about whether the carburetor float's stuck because of water that's caused rust, and yeah, it's just not worth it. So there's several of them on the market. I chose the MSD Atomic EFI. Holly makes one, Edelbrock makes one. There's a number of them out there, but this was the one I chose. So mounted the coil here on the firewall, and we also have mounted a new starter solenoid here. And so the next we're going to finish wiring up a little throwdown ignition switch I got, and we've got a battery, we've got to get some antifreeze, got to get some flex hoses. Just going to put flex hoses on there for now, measure them off and get their diameter, and we'll throw flex hoses on there, throw some antifreeze in the system. I'm also going to change the oil. The oil's been in it for, well, it's been sitting about a year and a half, and I've already changed the oil filter, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the oil out, just in case it's absorbed much moisture for some reason because of humidity. We live in Southeast Texas. Humidity is our norm. And anyway, it's just about ready to fire. We got to get we're going to get a gas tank, hook our EFI fuel pump up to it, and get ready to start this thing up. So get back with you on that in just a little. All right, well, back to this thing. It's time to start this motor. We got the radiator installed. We got some flex hose for now, temporary. You can see the lower flex hose, or the lower hose down there, suction hose in return. And this is the throttle body electronic fuel injection system. And I've got a little gauge on here for now, just for oil pressure. I don't have an oil pressure gauge. The EFI comes with air temperature, water temperature, those kind of things. Right now the battery's just perched here on the spring hat. Ultimately, it actually mounts in this general area on the inner fender skirt. Here's the just a reasonably modern starter solenoid. This is the power supply for the EFI. That's a MSD 6AL digital ignition. And then back in there is a MSD coil. And yeah, I've got fuel here, a fuel tank, the suction line coming to my fuel pump, electronic fuel pump, suction filter, discharge filter, that kind of thing. And we're gonna get this thing a crank. I did crank it a while ago. It's not first crank. At first crank went about like this crank's going to. Once I had fuel pressure, she fired up. Wasn't much trouble. I gotta love a fuel injection system for that. So let me put you on the tripod, and then we'll give this thing a start. All right, so pretty soon you won't be able to hear much of anything when this thing cranks up, but I was going to show you the EFI comes with basically a tool for setting up the system, and also a tool for gives you a dash set of gauges so you can see your RPM, your water temperature. Let's see if I can get to it. Not sure if you'll be able to see it, but basically it gives you all the major readings except oil pressure, which again, we have our oil pressure gauge for that, and we'll see what it's running after we crank it. So let's give this thing a start. I got the idle set. A couple things are going on. I don't have the oxygen sensor installed because I don't have any exhaust to install it in yet. So it's running a bit rich until the till it learns a new set of fuel tables. But that's fine for now. And you'll notice that she cranks a little rough when she's running rich, but once she's up and running, she runs good. Smells wonderful in the garage. Smells a little of unburned fuel, but it still smells good. Yeah, I do have the door open, by the way, in case you're wondering. The fuel pressure, the oil pressure, running about 55, 60 pounds on the oil gauge, and happy with that. And yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. It's a runner. It was the last time it was cranked was about 1 year and 8 months ago. It was the last time it ran. I think it was April of 2015. And I rebuilt it in December 14, January 15, and then ran it on the engine run stand. There's a whole series on this motor. If you're interested, I won't bore you with it. You can go watch that series, the rebuild series on this Ford 302. But it's now running in the truck. It's good stuff. Well, we're going to end it here at part 10, and we're going to come back on part 11 and see where we go from here. I'm not exactly sure where we're going from here. There's a number of options, number of opportunities on what to do next. So I'm going to dwell on that, and then we'll come back and keep moving on this truck. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.